Hello all, I'm Sai and you're watching the Book Dragon. In today's video, I'm bringing to you 8 Japanese translated books that you should give a read. I'm a person who's very much fascinated by Japanese culture and the way in which they live their lives. I like the discipline that they follow and the organized way in which they do all the things that they do in a very daily basis itself. Because of this, I am interested in reading a lot of Japanese literature. So in this video, I'm going to talk about 8 of the Japanese translated works that I've read so far. I have a total of 5 fiction books, 1 non-fiction book and 2 manga for this video. So without any further ado, let's get into the video right away. The first book in this list is Sweet Bean Paste by Durian Sukegawa. Here we follow a man who was imprisoned in the past for a brief amount of time because of some crime that he did. But once he gets out of prison, he gets this chance to work in this small shop where they prepare and sell dorayaki, and he starts becoming the chef there. He prepares the dorayaki and sells it to everyone who comes and visits the shop. During this time, what happens is there is this old woman who comes and asks for a job inside the shop for a very low wage. It's not like she needs the job, but she wants to work there because she is interested in doing the dorayaki. Since he does not need any assistance right now, the man does not agree with the old woman, but after a few days, because of her perseverance, she gets inside the shop and she starts working for him. After the old woman starts working in the shop, the quality of the dorayaki gets far better and the sales in the shop also skyrockets. After a few days, what happens is, it is revealed to us that this old woman had a disease in her past because of which her fingers are a bit bent. After this word gets out, the sales in the store drops down, and because of this the woman also leaves her work in the shop and goes away to the place where she is from. Even though this man has learned the methods from the old woman in a proper way, he is not that confident that he'll be able to deliver that much quality as the old woman did. He goes forward and tries to find the old woman and learns about her past. They have a number of interactions because of which they get to know the backstories of each other. And as we get to know the backstories of both these people and see how life has been for them, it makes us smile as well as shed a tear or two at multiple instances. This is definitely a wholesome book, and I just regret that I don't have a physical copy of this because I listen to most of these books as audiobooks. So if you want a wholesome read, just go forward and read Sweet Bean Paste by Durian Sukegawa. It's not even 250 pages long, but trust me, it's completely worth it. The next one is a YA contemporary, and it is Heaven by Mieko Kawakami. Here we follow two of our main characters, a boy and a girl, and both of them have been bullied continuously for the way they are in school, and the bullying that they are facing right now is also not anything that is easy to handle. It is very violent and it goes to extreme extents at times, and the way in which they persevere together through all the stuff that they are being put through is the actual plot of this book. It's not even like a huge story that is narrated to us. It's like a slice of life but shown to us in a very painful and honest way by the author. The writing of this author is also not made up in any way at all. She does not sugarcoat stuff. She just tells things as they are in the most transparent and blunt way they can be possibly said in order to deliver the effect that they have to deliver in the perfect way for us. It is a novella and not even 200 pages long, but trust me, once you finish reading this book, it will make a lasting impact in your mind because it is so strong in its tone. Having said that, this is not a heavy book to read, okay? It is a book which deals with so many heavy topics, but the way in which the author presents to us, at the same time, the way in which she shows the things that are experienced by the characters in this story, while being realistic, are not gross or unthinkable to see or read in a book. It is definitely one book which I'm sure many people will enjoy and relate with while reading. That's why I want to recommend it here. The next book is The Cat Who Saved Books by Sasuke Katsukawa. Here we follow this young boy who's just 15 years old, and he does not have parents, because of which he has grown up with his grandfather for the past few years. He's a person who's very secluded and he does not like the company of so many people. His grandfather is a person who's actually having this used bookshop, because of which this boy has read a lot of books in his life. And one day what happens is his grandfather dies and he's to be adopted and taken over by his aunt. During this time period, what happens is there's this small cat, which is a ginger cat. It comes and meets him in his shop. He just sees it and thinks that it's a normal cat, but what happens out of nowhere is the cat starts talking to him, and it tells him that since he is a person who likes books very much, he has to come with the cat to wherever he calls him through this portal or doorway in order to do all the things that he has to do in order to save these many books. The boy and the cat go through the small passageway inside the bookshop itself, and because of that they land in 3 different places in 3 different days. The stories that are narrated by the author in these 3 different places show us how this cat is trying to save books from people who are trying to do some very horrible things to them, either intentionally or unintentionally. The reason behind the things that they are doing is not always evil. evil. They have a good motive, but the way in which they are proceeding towards that motive is not the right way to do it. Again, this is a very short book, not even 200 pages long. You can go forward and listen to the audiobook, which I highly suggest, because the way in which the author narrates the dialogues of the cat in this one are so snarky and precise at every instant. This is a slice of life story, and I'm sure that if you're a book lover, you will enjoy this book. The next one is actually a series, and it is the Before the Coffee Gets Cold series by Toshikazu Kawaguchi. I've listened to all the 3 books that have been translated so far into English. I know that the 4th book is out already in Japanese, but it has not been translated into English yet. I think the 4th book was published in 2021, but until now we have not got a translation for it. So in this book series, we basically follow this cafe in which people can just go forward and travel in time to the past, okay? But it has a lot of conditions which makes most people who want to try and get to the past opt out of it and not want to travel at all. The main condition being that they have to drink this whole cup of coffee before it gets cold, otherwise they'll turn into a ghost or something very horrible will happen to them if they stay in the past, even past the time the coffee has got cold. The format of these books is that there is not this single story that is narrated across all 3 books. Each and every one of the 3 books have kind of stories that are experienced by different characters who come and visit the cafe, and there are also some stories which are experienced by people who are living in the cafe and owning the cafe itself. It's a magical realism series, and trust me, it is definitely super well written. The translation for this one I think is very cozy in its tone, so that you can read it during any season no matter what it is. If you like a very atmospheric and immersive read, you definitely have to go forward and read this series by Toshikazu Kawaguchi. The next book is by a very well-known Japanese author, and it is Kafka on the Shore by Haruki Murakami. I have actually read only this as a full-length novel by Murakami so far. I have another book by him which is Killing Commentary back in the shelf. I want to read it this year, but trust me, this is the weirdest book that I've read so far in my life. Here we follow a main character, Kafka Tamura, who is a 15-year-old boy, and he escapes from his house and elopes alone because of some things that have happened in his household and some disagreements that he has with his father. He gets into this library and reads a lot of stuff from there, and he also befriends the librarian who's working there. They form a really good friendship, and because of this he gets to live in some places where the librarian actually lets him live. At the same time, we also follow this other character who's an old man named Takata, and he's also doing so many stuff because he's totally alone at his old age. He has no one to care for him, but because of some reason he just embarks on this journey to nowhere, and how he is helped by a single character throughout his journey is the actual plot of this book. That is the best way I can describe this book without spoiling it in any way for you. If you're going to read this book, just keep in mind that you have to not care about where the story is heading towards, because it's all about the journey when it comes to this book. You can interpret the story that the author has narrated here in so many different ways. I myself was able to understand the story in more than one way. So if you want something super weird and super cool to read, just go forward and read Kafka on the Shore by Haruki Murakami. The next book is the non-fiction which I talked about, and it is Hiroshima Diary by Michihiko Hachiya. This is actually a journal that was kept by this doctor named Michihiko Hachiya for a month after the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki took place. This book actually deals with the journal entries of the doctor because he lived in Hiroshima alone. It does not have that much to talk about Nagasaki, but the events that the author describes here are just so brutal. It is a book that has been written from ground zero by a person who was right there while the bombing took place. It just shows us how horrible that incident has been for Japan, and especially for Hiroshima and Nagasaki. You can just see the impact that it has had on that land and its people for generations just from reading the single book alone. It is very, very difficult to read, okay? Just keep that in mind alone if you're going to read it, because it talks about actual cruel things that humanity went through during the World War II, and the way in which the author has just not hidden away any details that he has seen and noted as journal entries here is very, very horrifying, at the same time fascinating to read. I just picked up this book on a whim because I heard someone else talking about this book on YouTube, and trust me, it was a very horrifying, unique and informative experience for me, because I have not read anything like this ever before in my life, and how much effort must have been put forth by this author in order to just write this book. I think just for that effort alone, many more people need to read this book. Lastly, I want to talk about the manga, the first one of which is A Silent Voice by Yoshitoki Oima. I read this entire manga last year, during the second half of last year actually. It's just 7 volumes long, and I think that you can just finish it in one day itself if you read manga at a very fast pace. I don't read manga continuously, so I took a few months to finish this one, even though it is very, very short and quick and easy to read. Here we follow our two main characters, Shoko and Shoya, of whom Shoko is a girl who does not have the ability to hear stuff, because of which she is not that well trained in talking. She cannot hear the stuff, so she cannot talk out them properly also, because of which she is wearing a hearing aid. Because of this, she is bullied very heavily by the students there, and the person who is very much responsible for the bullying of Shoko is Shoya, who is our other main character. Because of the bullying getting to such a high extent, Shoko has to be moved from that school into a newer one, and after she gets moved into the new school, all the blame for bullying Shoko falls on the head of Shoya, even though all the other students were also involved in the bullying. There's also an adaptation for this which is available as a movie in Netflix, so you can watch that also after finishing this one. It's definitely a very heartwarming tale and also a very grey tale, so you have to go forward and read this. The last one I want to recommend today is Cells at Work by Akane Shimizu. Now, this is a series which talks about the human body as a whole and treating it as a landscape, and each and every group of cells inside the body is taken as a group of people who work inside the human body. So basically we have a red blood cell and a white blood cell as the main characters inside the series, and the way in which the author explains the immune system of human beings for us is just fascinating. Okay, if you're a person who's into biology and wants to learn a lot of more things, just go forward and try this. I'm sure you'll not be disappointed at all. I've rated all the volumes that I've read so far in this series 5 stars because they are completely action packed and information packed for me. Having all that, it does not get boring at any instant at all. At the same time, they are such quick reads. Okay, you need not sit down and read everything slowly in order to understand what is happening. You can just go with the flow and read them as fast as you want, because it is that well paced, at the same time that well written, perfectly done by the author if you ask me. It does not take that much time to read. At the same time, it is super jam packed that you will get so much out of it from the time that you spend with it. I have been recommending this continuously over the past 6 months, and I'm sure that I'll be recommending it so on in the future also. So if you've not read Cells at Work by Akane Shimizu yet, just go forward and try it. If you've read any of these books, please do let me know down in the comments how they are and what you enjoyed about them. And if you're going to read any of these books, please mention them also down in the comments so that I can know what you're going to read in the future. And if you did enjoy watching today's video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and also share it to your friends. If you want to get more content from me, do subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching and have a great rest of your day.